businesses really are valuing design. You know, they understand that they want to engage with their consumers every hour, and you know, they're creating a following, and they understand that people become loyal to that tone of voice, and they're hungry to find out more, and they want to go back, and they want to find out what new pieces of content are available. And it's a completely constant relationship now, whereas I think we used to access brands via the supermarket shelf, or via the high street, but now we can do that on the move, of course. We can do that via our screens, and brands really recognise the need for consistent brilliance, I think.
I mean, I think it changed. We can, we need to shake the hands very firmly of Jonathan Ive and Steve Jobs for bringing great design into people's everyday lives, because that's really changed the landscape. And I think that, their success as a business through providing great work, great design, and everybody uses it as an example of brilliance. I mean, it has its shortcomings, I think, and in the future, who knows where it will go next. But I think that was the revolutionary moment where consumers demanded better work.
Yeah. I often think as well, Bruce, that the period we went through where sustainability became such an important debate between brands and their consumers meant that brands had to start talking, had to start creating conversation with their consumers, and that was a brilliant. I guess that got everybody to sort of open up, and suddenly brands were really trying hard to talk about the way they made their products and the way they marketed their products.
I mean, it's interesting, isn't it, that these days that is you just have to do that. I mean, I think it's a very difficult time for brands, because the whole business model of brands is to make things that are desirable and sell more of them, and that's how you make your company successful. And as a kind of whole, as a world, we need to somehow figure out how we can produce better things of better quality, that we don't need so much of it. We've all got too much stuff in our lives, and somehow we have to make all that work. And I think that's part of the designer's challenge, actually, is to create quality that is genuinely useful to humanity, not just stuff that we all have too much of anyway in certain parts of the world.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. It's a quality versus quantity, reality. I kind of feel as well that the old art of brand identity was very much about expressing a company's personality, and that hasn't changed. It's still important to convey a character in a brand, and although we enjoy diversity in content, we do want consistency of position. We want to learn to trust that brand. We don't want it to flip-flop. We want it to be anchored. I
suppose to get a brand identity that has some kind of system which allows, when you first see it, that everything in your peripheral vision looks like that brand, but allows for the flexibility to be creative. I think is the ultimate. That's the thing we're all going for at the moment.
Yeah. And we've gone through an era where brands have been very, brands like Google is obviously the easy one to call out, have developed identities which are constantly changing. That kind of shape shifting in branding has been a response to the desire to be consistent yet flexible. And, it's been a really interesting journey, over the last sort of 15, 20 years.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think now is an interesting time as well, because there's almost there is the very highly considered bits of design that we're all kind of, we work on, and we're trying to curate the whole time brands that the content is so, creatively excellent. But then there's also the opposite effect happening as well. There's a sort of undesigned brands where design is in there, but it's not very obvious. You think of MTV, people like that, where it's user-centric content that's being delivered in actually a kind of very clever way. So I think we've also got to realise there's a whole set of consumers out there who are very, very savvy to being sold stuff through design. That's not what we're trying to do. We're trying to represent what the brand really stands for. And these days, the consumer right at the centre of everything is what it stands for, for everybody. So, how it manifests itself, I think, is going to be very varied and different.
I think another thing that's always interesting to remember is it's not one brand for every one consumer. That one consumer falls in love with multiple brands and does that for all sorts of reasons. And I often think that there's this view that our target market is nicely contained in one, brand strategy document via a set of demographics. But actually, those are the very same people that are also fallen in love with very different brand stories. So sometimes I think the consumer curates its own collection of loyalties, and they're constantly rethinking their own collection, aren't they? Which is kind of fascinating, really.